This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. This is a word that we hear come up a lot, even more in the last year, in recent years. And I'm not really sure that everybody knows what this word means, but it's pretty much everything in terms of your health, what you're feeling, chronic issues, disease, all of that. The word I'm referring to is inflammation. Now, a lot of times when you hear that, you might get that picture of, oh, I hit my arm. It's inflamed. I have an inflammation here, or maybe arthritis, things like that. Goes way deeper than that, and so much more in that the food you eat can cause inflammation, which causes all of the challenges that I just described. Let's dig into that. Lots to talk about with her. She is a holistic health practitioner. She truly gets to the root cause of what is causing all the challenges that we have. In modern medicine, there's a place for that, but that usually treats the symptoms, not the root cause. So let's get to that right now. Claire Boye joins us on the program today. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Welcome.
I've been hearing this word for a while. I've read a little bit how inflammation is connected to challenges in our body. Would you say most inflammation, not all, but I'm saying most, is caused by the foods that we eat?
Actually, I would not.
Okay, let's go.
Here we go. So, the word inflammation means something has become mad. Think about the word flame. So, something has become mad. And the question is how, what, and why. And then, most importantly, how do you get rid of it? So, for me, it can be a combination of two things. Yes, foods, believe it or not, can cause inflammation. That's because foods have histamines. Okay.
Did you say histamines?
I sure did. So yes, think about the word we hear all the time, antihistamine, but people don't understand the word histamine. Like, what is that? So that is what I'm going to speak to, because histamines are the things that cause the inflammation. Okay.
This is new territory for me. I got to tell you, Claire. And of course, like the rest of us, histamine, right away, you think of allergy, sneezing, those kind of issues, because we take a antihistamine for that. And usually only for that, at least, yeah, most of us, when we hear that word.
Exactly. Well, so for me, because I work on optimizing the flow in the body, because without circulation, without flow, things don't move and we're stagnated and things start to hurt. So for me, mobility, fluid flow is very, very key. Now, I'll explain how people can have inflammation in their bodies. And that is by a couple of means. One is that the bodies have been introduced to a toxicity of some sort, be it injected, be it smelled, be it eaten. And the body's like, whoa, wait, what is that? So our white blood cells have these little containers of histamine balls, and they will release this little acidic balls to head toward the problem to corral the situation. And what happens when they arrive is they literally sting the tissue. So just like a puffer fish, all of a sudden that tissue goes and expands, and then just like a marshmallow contains the unknown or threatening toxicity. Now, the problem can be, for many people, is that this situation has happened many times over, and throughout the entire body, there are now these little pockets of puffed out containments, which then, of course, impedes fluid flow in the body. So now that you have these inflammation pockets, things don't get to where they need to get to, signals don't pass through the nerves, like the oxygenation doesn't happen, many things to slow down how we actually function and operate. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of inflammation introduction into our body is through our food, because some foods naturally have high histamine loads in them. Foods like, believe it or not, a really good ripe avocado, a mushy banana, fermented foods, super mature plants like pineapple, kale. Some of these things that we hear like, oh, we should definitely ingest more. Well, not if you have an inflammatory issue, because those have high histamine in it. Takes a little bit of bacteria, grows in there, and then the histamines grow in the bacteria. And then you eat it, and the body's like, I already have a lot of histamine. I got a lot of inflammation. Now you just add it to it. So then it kind of exacerbates the situation, and people might have an allergic response. So, how do we get around this? Yes, we do know about Benadryl. But what really is happening in a lot of people is that their livers do not make the enzyme to break down the histamine ball so that we can actually handle what's been contained. So the other side of it is that, yes, we have the Hail Mary response, but the back end of it is that people's livers do not have the capacity, space, margin to create the enzyme to come break down the little histamine balls. So we kind of walk around inflamed. So what I help to do for people is to fundamentally reduce inflammation by increasing the enzymatic production in the liver that breaks down the histamines, and concurrently move out of the body, so detox the body of the things that it actually corralled that it could not handle at the time. So that symbiotic work then helps to allow me to improve flow in the body, which as a default just helps people already feel better.
This runs way deeper than I ever imagined.
You're welcome.
Wow. Wow. And my first glance view of this is you eat a certain food, it doesn't agree with your body, it causes inflammation, and there ensues different challenges you may have. Could be even bloating, could be
Yeah,
this, could be that.
acid reflux is a very common one as well, as
Wow.
actually a histamine response to food.
Wow. Is it, Claire, is it really all centering within the liver? That is, kind of the hub of it trying to process all this, and the liver's like, I can only do so much for you.
Mhm. Yeah, so the liver actually is involved with over 2,000 functions in our body, right? And it actually has a priority for what it wants to work on. So if we go in like 4 tiers priority, the top tier actually is digestion. So that's bile production. That's actually talking to the pancreas so it can actually modulate the sugar regulation, insulin regulation. Critical digestion, top. Somewhere around the mid part of the liver's priority is working on functions like cholesterol regulation, sugar regulation, hormonal regulation. And then towards the bottom is where then it's like, oh, done everything else. Now I can work on this detox and histamine breakdown. But the problem is a lot of people struggle in the upper tier, so the liver doesn't have resource to get to the bottom tier work.
Wow. Why are we focusing more on inflammation in the last year, two, three, but not before? It's been, I've got to believe it's been around for,
For sure. For
forever.
Sure. For I definitely say the past like 250 years or so been more problematic. I just feel like the past few years, especially, we've had some more intense introduction into our bodies besides just the regular tree molds that are out floating around. We've also had all sorts of new medications on the market, all the things. The skies are a little bit more dirty. There's just much more introduction. We've got 5G, we've got many more things than what our body has seen. So we don't evolve that fast. And so they're ahead of what our bodies actually process.
Wow. It's alarming. And at least hearing all of this, not that I, want to go into freak mode or anything like that, but
Yeah.
should we be alarmed? We got things going on here that might be happening within our bodies and we don't even realize it.
Yeah, we definitely should be more cognizant and aware. So here's the thing, there's two like spectrums of people. There's people who are sensitive and like they notice everything right away. And there's the other spectrum of people that are just like, I don't really feel that much. I'm fine. The I'm finers actually might be in more trouble because it takes something catastrophic before they actually can feel something is going on. So those people wake up and like, oh, well, I'm stage 4 cancer kind of thing. See what I mean? Because you've got so much more capacity to handle, and before their body kind of cues in, they're like, there's something going on. But by and large, everybody still is going through the same experience. So by and large, everybody should be much more cognizant of doing something to help clean their bodies out, really. And we just don't know those ways anymore for many reasons.
What are the steps? So let's say somebody comes before you. Can you walk us through that journey? Let's say, all right, inflammation has been on my personal radar.
Yeah.
I've gotten an education from you in the last 7 minutes,
Mhm.
um, as we all have, and it runs way deeper than I think we ever imagined. What's the steps? Detox be one of them, I would imagine.
Yeah. So my work centers on making custom programs for people. And these are not just, oh, this generally works well. I like how this sounds. I do actual reflex testing on people and I do it remotely. So that's another capacity that I have. But this way, I'm able to make sure I only do what the body can handle and at the rate the body can handle it. So that way, the process doesn't involve 5 hours in the bathroom talking to the porcelain king.
Hmm. And the reflexology, I think I heard you say,
Mhm.
is that similar to muscle testing, body talk? Practitioners do that as well.
Yeah, so reflex testing actually just describes tapping into the background nervous system of the body. So your pediatrician did it to you as a kid. They took the hammer and they tapped your wrist or tapped your knee, and they verified that you have a brain signal coming from the brain all the way down to your knee if your leg moved. I'm doing the same test, I just don't do a hammer. So it's called the patellar test, and I just do an advanced version of that, yes. So others might call it like muscle reflex testing or muscle testing. But yep, that's exactly what I do.
So is the body telling you what's going on? Because that's always been my
Exactly.
understanding in the last few years as I dig deeper into this, where the body knows everything. It's it's
Mhm.
it's telling and talking to us all the time. Most of us don't listen. Call it, a symptom pops up here and there, and you're like, you're that.
Just take this and it goes away. No, it's still
Right.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But with this, call it muscle testing,
Mhm.
uh, can you get answers and be able to pinpoint your treatment?
That's exactly what I do. So I pinpoint after I check these fundamental things. First, I make sure your nervous system is firing. So that way you become more cognizant about what's going on in your body. Because that's another thing. People have a muted feedback within themselves. So get the nervous system going, tap into it with a reflex test. The next thing I make sure about is that your drainage pathways are open, because if we're detoxing, I want it to come out and not go somewhere else in the body. Okay?
Hmm.
The third big thing I make sure about is to make sure that that hormonal plateau is not in the way. Because again, from babies all the way up to my super seniors that I work with, hormone processing can stymie the liver's capacity to actually detox because it stays stuck at the level. Like, I can't do this quite right now. Just keep trying, keep trying. So actually enable the body to move past that priority function. And then last but not least, I make sure that everything's talking. So I want the liver talking to the lymph, like everything, everybody needs to talk, get on the same page. So I do all this by just tapping into the body.
I want to apologize to my liver. I think we all should. Had no idea what major roles it plays. Wow. Um, can you give some examples of symptoms that somebody may have? And it's wide open here, I'm sure. There's so many different things that we could be experiencing due to inflammation.
Okay, so this is the wide range
Hmm.
for people. Um, People might have tinnitus, so ear ringing
Wow.
is a key example of inflammation in the ear canal and the heart, for example. Um, People who have inflammation in the liver, which is supposed to help us with actually de-inflaming the body, but is stuck, might have acne rashing problems,
Hmm.
for example. Um, Here's another good one. When people have inflammation in their spleen, this is a super duper important organ for me, actually. Between the liver and spleen, they work hand in hand. So if they have inflammation in the spleen, now you might have what's called an autoimmune, for example.
Wow.
Mhm. So having inflammation in your actual organs is really problematic. Having it kind of stuck in the veins or some other tubes that are kind of in the body, not as problematic, but you feel tight.
How do you know it's actually gotten into an organ?
Oh, just by those symptoms, for example. And then when you do the reflex test, it doesn't really respond because it's too weak. It's like, I can't move. I'm like the Michelin man. I'm kind of stuck.
I know this was important. I'm at this point, in my mind, inflammation, not good for you, et cetera, et cetera. Out of a scale of 1 to 10, in my mind, based on what I've known, I would probably put it at a 6. What do I know? Now I'm up there, touching 10 based on everything you're saying. And would you say that I'm thinking right in that?
Yeah, it's critical. That's why it's one of my fundamental areas that I make sure to address when people come to this office.
Can you give us the histamine connection to the inflammation again? I'm just trying to process that because, again, we had a different view of histamines due to allergies and things like that.
Yeah. So histamines, just think of them as little acid balls. We all know that acid kind of stings and burns. So if these little balls have to go corral a situation that is in an organ or a gland, that really impedes the functionality of that organ or gland because it's been stung. But think about when you get stung, that skin and puffs up.
Hmm.
So that happens inside of us as well.
It becomes inflamed.
Inflamed.
Wow.
Bad. Uh-huh. You got it.
So for you, what's the starting point? Somebody feels that, well, I have some symptoms. I'm concerned. They reach out to you. Take us through those steps, the beginning steps.
Well, for everyone who is new, I do a full assessment. So I check people from head to toe. I check the entire biofield of the person, quite a deep analysis. I will then figure out, okay, I know I found inflammation. I know I found all the stagnations that cause people to feel not their best. I then just test how the body wants to get the ball rolling. And then once I've got that isolated, I put together a full protocol for people to execute.
Give an example of one of those protocols.
Ha. So I actually utilize not only herbs and homeopathics and just crushed food, I utilize essential oils because I found that you can actually activate the body by actually telling the brain, hey, time to do this thing. And that will send out signals through the body and signals through the organs to actually start to defibrillate themselves and work.
Wow. Amazing. Uh, we're figuring out here today. In your journey, have you gone through the steps to eliminate inflammation you suspected in your body? And the second part of that question is, in general, no matter what you do, you're always going to have some degree of inflammation.
Ish. So this is a point of staying on top of maybe a short fast or not intense eating periodically, or making sure that you're incorporating some kind of something like a tea to make sure your body's optimal, the spleen and liver. So we don't just have to default like, it's going to come and get me. No, we just have to utilize the tools to help our body actually stay with enough margin so it can handle the situations that it comes across.
Would it be reasonable to think at some point when you're working with somebody that you might identify certain foods that the your client can't eat anymore? This causes inflammation. We've identified it. You got to stay away from insert name of food.
Yeah. So I do diet modifications. I take a stock of what people eat, and then I'll figure out what items, if any, are super problematic to being able to heal. Now, there are just 4 key ones that I make sure to monitor. I start with these 4 because most people who are coming to me are more health conscious. So I don't have to be like, well, don't go to McDonald's today, or stop, the 3 liters of Pepsi Cola that you're intaking.
Right.
Most people are generally eating reasonably. So for me, the 4 key foods that are inflammatory because they have a high histamine load in them or a high toxicity load in them are everyone else. Gluten. Our wheat crop is a little bit contaminated. So that toxicity in that grain gets, makes our bodies mad because a lot of people have a high load in them already. So I tell people low or no gluten. That's one. The others are avocado. So the way that you know something has a high histamine load is the seed size. The optimal seed size is a flaxseed for the liver. This is the one that has to make the enzyme to break down the histamines, remember? So the smaller the seed size, the lower the histamine is actually in that product. So I tell people smaller is better. For example,
Wow.
you got cherry tomatoes, you got plum, and you've got a large. Which one has the lowest histamine load?
Cherry tomato, plum. And what was the other one?
And the regular large tomato.
I think I'm going to go with the regular large tomato. Obviously, the plum has a huge size seed, right?
No, the cherry tomato is the smallest one, right?
I thought it was a trick question, but okay.
No, just the smallest one.
Wow.
So the smaller the better. Because people are like, oh, I love the taste of cherry tomato. I'm like, yeah, because your body actually can handle that one better.
And the avocado.
How big is that seed compared to a flax seed?
Totally. But
right?
We look at the avocado as a healthier thing you can eat because it's got healthy fats, right?
But it's a tricky healthy fat. So I just figure out alternatives. Most times it's like doing a hummus or something like that. Now, here's what's the good part. I'll tell you the other 2 first. The next one that is high histamine is a coconut. Well, we know that nut size is pretty big compared to a flaxseed. The last one I kind of judge depending on the person is cacao products, the chocolate. Now, the one that I want to just automatically take away is the gluten. I always start there, and then I test to see how people handle the other 3. The good part is that things come back. As your body gets regulated, healed, and repaired, you can handle the avocado. That is not a deep fried fritter. That is actually food, right? So that comes back in. Chocolate comes back in, depending on the person. Coconuts back in.
Okay. All right. So there is a happy ending, and I get this view of you get to a point where your body's just like, I can't do anymore. Please stop. But once you eradicate that, everything calms down, detox. You can start introducing those things, maybe in within reason, moderation. Yeah. Thank you. What an education today. What is the best way to reach you? Somebody wants to dig in a little bit more, talk about all of this detoxing. How do they find you?
Couple of ways. So I do offer free 10-minute consults, just if people want to chat a little bit, understand if what they're dealing with is in my wheelhouse. And they can just text or call 847 350-9697. Or they can go through the website. I am on social, but I'm not what I would call super social. So it's better to go through the website. And the name of my practice is Gnosis, like diagnosis, natural health. So gnosisnaturalhealth.com.
And that's GNOSIS. Right.
Natural health.
Beautiful. Thank you, Claire, for today. All the insight, shocking revelations here, and it's time to start cleaning up.
Seriously,
really?
folks.
Yeah. All right. I
We're all
appreciate
here.
it. We'll catch up next time.
All right. Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, Steve. Goodbye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.